the 4 roles that we can play in the game of basketball. Our coach taught the whole team this. And
Okay.
of course, coaching is one of those roles. Playing is another one of those roles. Spectating is one of those roles.
Okay.
And officiating is one of those roles. Why would our basketball coach in college tell us about these 4 roles and remind us of these 4 roles so consistently? Because it turns out in life and teams and projects that we're on, we all play a role, don't we?
Okay. Yeah.
Welcome. You are listening to Season 3 of the Bonafide Leaders podcast, a podcast that exists to inspire legitimate and authentic leadership in the workplace and beyond. And I'm your host, Tim G. Williams. This season's theme is the intersection, sports, business, and leadership, which happen to be 3 of my greatest loves on earth. Now, if you don't play sports, you've never played sports, or you don't like sports, don't tune out. This podcast is for you too. I promise there will be nuggets for everyone. Welcome in to another edition of the Bonafide Leaders podcast. I'm your host, Tim G. Williams. And with me today is my buddy, Aaron, once again, to help us unpack this concept around the intersection of sports, business, and leadership. And looking forward to really getting into it today.
Well, thank you. Thank you for letting me be here, asking you questions.
Hey, I could not do it without you.
It'd be a little weird if you were asking yourself questions.
It would definitely be weird. Yes. So yeah, let's get into it.
All right. So the last episode we did, we talked about you as a player.
Mm-hmm.
And before we jump into coaching, that's what we're going to cover today, I want to wrap up that player side of things and really talk about that player side and how people can apply what you've learned, the lessons learned as a player, into leadership, into business, into working for someone in a role, no matter how old they are, as they move up in the ranks. How do you apply those traits you've learned?
Yes.
And qualities.
Great question, because last time I don't think I really did a good job for the listener on summarizing those things that I got as a player. And probably there's 5 things. The first one is being able to juggle a load and prioritize activities. And that's a never-ending skill that we all have to have, whether we're single, whether we're middle-aged, or whether we are working a corporate America job or what have you. For me in college, man, the load of academics plus sports plus relationships, there really wasn't much free time. You know, as a former student athlete, you know that one of the things that we sacrifice are sort of the things that we miss out on, whether it be prom, whether it be stuff, parties, things that people go to that we just don't see because we're off doing our thing. And that's a very, very real phenomenon. At the same time, there's very little time in the schedule to think about too much else.
Yeah.
Because as a college student athlete, it was my full-time job. Between lifting weights, film study, preseason workouts, after-season workouts, coaching meetings, practice, there just wasn't a lot of time once you got to now, okay, I got to go to class, got to study. And for me, I mean, I had a major that's not probably a walk in the park, you know, studying finance in the business school, required some group work, required working with people outside of class, going to my teachers' rooms for office hours. So I think now being able to kind of look at a schedule and decide what's a must do versus what I would kind of like to do, that's relatively easy for me now, because there's a multitude of stuff I can get involved with. But at the same time, I've been so used to carrying a load, and now as an adult, right? Of course, you got a home to manage, and there's, you know, things like taking out trash and buying groceries, and of course, raising a family and all the kids' activities, trying to be a good husband, plus trying to be involved in my community, being involved in my church. There's all these activities, trying to run this business that I'm running now. Yeah. So there's no shortage of stuff to get into. And now I think because I've been a student athlete, it's not weird that I'm so loaded with stuff. It's just normal. And I think that helps me manage. So that's the first thing I would say for sure.
Okay. What about, you know, you mentioned 5.
Oh, yeah.
What else do we have?
Second thing I would say is just the idea of failing and losing. Losing, failing, whatever you want to call it, I think it's given me a different perspective. So a lot of times many of the people that I worked with over a corporate career, it became sort of apparent that they were not accustomed to people telling them no. They were not accustomed to losing. And it came out. It's the whole I'm going to take my ball and go home kind of theory when I don't get my way. And that's the craziest look for an adult.
Yeah.
But I just
Yeah.
see this. And I think part of that is there's something important about being told no and losing when you're young, so that when you're old, it doesn't hit you like it's a ton of bricks. It's just an important lesson, and you learn to sort of lose gracefully and win gracefully, but you never quit. So I think Dale said it well in one of the last podcast episodes. He says, baseball was over, but now it's time to go win at something else.
Yeah.
So I think failing and losing gave me a different kind of perspective and an ability to kind of have an even keel about circumstances. Sometimes things are up, sometimes things are down, but you know what? Losing hurts, but it's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
Keeping things in a proper perspective. The third thing I say.
Oh, wait, before we go there, I want to ask about this one because I find this very interesting because as a competitor, like I grew up in a very competitive family.
Yes.
I hate losing from a perspective of like, I will do whatever it takes. Now, if you look at as we get older, failure is just closer to success, right? Do you feel that same applies though? Because from a failure perspective in sports to a failure in life, I feel are still very different.
Yeah.
Because what are the lessons that you've been able to apply where you can be okay with failure later on from what you learned from a sports?
Yeah. So first of all, I think what we have to do is back up and define failure. Because failure is different from losing. Losing is different from failure. And losing a game is a game, and you and I both want to win them all. that season when my wonderful soccer team went 0-6 or 0-8, whatever we were, I don't know how many we lost. I know we didn't win a single thing.
Yeah.
Horrible. Hated it. Didn't enjoy it. It's not nearly as much fun when you're losing all the time. At the same time, do those losses make those girls failures for life? My God, I certainly hope not. Does that make me a guy who can never coach anything ever again? Man, I hope not. So I think part of what I'm saying is that, yes, you put everything you can into something to try to do as much as you can. But at the end of the day, we're not always fully responsible for the outcomes.
Yeah.
What we are responsible for are the inputs.
Yeah.
So for me, I call it a seed in the ground theory. I'm just trying to put as many seeds in the ground as I possibly can as a business owner today. And I believe if I'm doing the right activities and I'm making the right phone calls and the right connections, then eventually things are going to come together the way that I want them to. So to me, that's how I distinguish it.
Good preparation. Good lesson in preparation. Getting prepared. Okay, sorry to cut you off. Number 3.
No, that's good. Third one is perseverance. It's similar to the last one, but it's slightly different. So, I went from being on the B team in 7th grade to ultimately in high school, becoming team captain and MVP of my team and first team all district and all these kind of awards and stuff. That only happens because of this. I'll give you a quote from, I think it was Winston Churchill. And he said this. He said, success consists of going from failure to failure without loss of enthusiasm.
Yeah.
And when we can approach each opportunity with no guarantees of a win, no guarantees of a loss, just trusting that, it's deepening my capability, I think that is what engenders growth. And for me, without question, being told no, failing, losing, continue to have perseverance and to believe that I can get through this thing has been critical. The fourth.
Well, and then going back to perseverance, though, is that I think to me, and please correct me if you don't, it's that learning to love the process. I would hate it when people would tell me that, like, love the process. But it's like, going to basketball, it's like learning to love that process of getting better.
Yes.
Not, I'm only going to be happy when it's the championship.
That's
right?
Exactly right.
And
it's the journey.
Yes.
It's not just the end destination that we have to be mindful of. I think I posted on this recently. I used to be a kind of person that was very destination focused. And I think it's only through, maybe this is the case for all of us, but through life, age, maturity, I realized that actually some of the greatest memories, in fact, almost all the greatest memories are from the journey.
Yeah.
the path to getting better. And I can tell you this, you're either getting better or you're getting worse. And that's also a principle. There is no in between.
Yeah.
Because people around you are either getting better or they're getting worse. They're putting time into their craft or they're not putting time into their craft. So all those hours that I was spending copying Isaiah Thomas and Michael Jordan, of course, I look nothing like them, but I'm pretending that I am when I'm in the 7th grade and the 8th grade. Eventually that stuff adds up and becomes positive over time.
Yeah. Okay.
So this fourth one, work ethic, discipline, and what I like to call the daily grind. The best illustration of this to me is the fact is, as a student athlete, I don't feel like going to practice some days. I don't feel like running this 5-mile run we got to do across the city.
Yeah.
I do not feel like lifting weights because, man, my pecs, my body, everything's just sore. I'm just hurting. I really don't want to look at film because I know I really screwed up in the game and you're going to call me out. And I got class early tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
But what sports forced me to do was to just get it done.
Yeah.
Despite my emotions, despite my feelings, not always feeling like it, but just getting it done. And so when I talk about discipline, there's a scripture that comes to mind. So last year I came across this scripture in the book of Hebrews. The author is unknown, but the power of the words are strong. Hebrews chapter 12, verse 11 says, "No discipline seems pleasant at the time, but painful. Later on, however, it produces a harvest of righteousness and peace for those who have been trained by it."
I love that.
There's nothing peaceful or enjoyable about discipline in that moment. When you really don't feel like showing up to class, you don't really feel like showing up to work. Oh my God, but there is a harvest that comes from just showing up. Even if you can't bring everything, you can bring something. And over time, I think I got trained to bring my best every single day because it's a competition all around me. And if I'm not bringing my best, I might be losing time on a court, and I didn't want that.
Yeah.
And then the last one is the skill of human relations. They say everything you need to learn about living, you learn in kindergarten. Some people say that. Everything we need to know about how to get along with people, we learn in kindergarten. I must have missed that lesson. I must have been a little bit slow. I will say that everything I needed to know about people, not everything, but probably 90 to 95% of it, I got in college. I got a PhD in human relations. And my experience was unlike almost anybody I've ever met. I go to an HBCU on the East Coast. Things don't work out there. Both coaches, for whatever reason, get some stuff wrong with their facts. I go to the next school. It's a military junior college, 4-year high school combined with a 2-year junior college. I can't play basketball there because I'm ruled ineligible by the NCAA and some other factors. And I'm a rat, recruit at training. And I have to show up, salute people who are younger than me, do a lot of push-ups in the snow. I was miserable, but there was something at the end, which is an associate's degree. And then I go to a small Baptist school in West Texas. I mean, small. And then I finished at Texas A&M, right? One of the largest institutions in the country in terms of number of students, both undergrad as well as grad students. During that experience, I had over 50 different teammates, not including my intramural teammates at A&M, just including my basketball and cross-country teammates. Plus, I had 15 different suite mates and roommates. Very few of them I chose. In fact, I'm trying to think, did I choose any of those roommates and suite mates? I don't think I did.
Wow.
And I could spend another podcast telling you all about the different personalities, but the point is that I had to learn how to work and get along with people from all kinds of different backgrounds. And that is a highly valuable and transferable skill. What I always like to tell people is that, man, if I'm having a really hard time working with somebody, it might be me.
Yeah.
But there's also a possibility that there's something going on.
Yeah.
Because I've kind of figured out how to connect with almost everyone. In fact, if you look at my strength fighters, one of my top 5 is connectedness, because I can find something for us to find some common ground on. We could be polar opposites politically, differences in ethnicity, differences in socioeconomics, but generally speaking, I can find something. And I didn't even realize I was growing this skill, Aaron, until I was a full-time employee. So I'm on the finance diversity team. I'm like mid-20s. And there's about 10 or 15 executives on this team, and then another 10 of people like me. I call myself a peon, meaning I'm just an employee.
Yeah.
Most of the people in the room, though, were white males. And I was astonished how the room would be fixated on me as I would just be making what I thought was just an everyday normal comment, blacks, Hispanics, this, that, young, old, whatever the topic was of the day, generations, and people's eyes, I could just feel them on me. But it was a look of almost like amazement.
Okay.
And I didn't understand why people were amazed by this. I only realized later that my experiences going to an HBCU on the East Coast and dealing with all different kind of players from literally across the world, it was giving me a skill that it would be very useful in a corporate environment because I ended up working at a place where something like 50 plus languages are spoken every single day in our cafeteria. So anyway, sometimes the hardships of going through difficult circumstances and times, and my college period was tumultuous. I mean, it was not like it was, oh, this is awesome. But on the flip side of that thing, I see what came back from it, and I feel very, very blessed for having gone through it. So those are my 5. Those are my, as a player, top 5 transferable skills that I think are highly relatable to a profession, business, leadership, whatever you're doing.
I'm with you. I believe so much in the power of, we talked about it last time too, just the perseverance. So
Yeah.
you've come through college, you're a player. Now it's time to, I don't know, I'm curious when coaching came on your radar. And I'm assuming there was someone in your life who kind of turned that light on for you or opened that door, or just made you think like, yeah, I would really enjoy. It wasn't just you waited till you had kids, but before that, right? So talk about that, who that person was, that kind of mentor that helped shine that light in that possibility.
That is such a wonderful question, because that person who I'm thinking of really introduced me to a whole world that I never knew existed. Before I get there, let me touch on something that a college coach told me, because I think this is important to understand. I'm going to talk about roles.
Okay.
And that is the 4 roles that we can play in the game of basketball. Our coach taught the whole team this. And of course, coaching is one of those roles. Playing is another one of those roles. Spectating is one of those roles.
Okay.
And officiating is one of those roles. Why would our basketball coach in college tell us about these 4 roles and remind us of these 4 roles so consistently? Because it turns out in life and teams and projects that we're on, we all play a role, don't we?
Okay. Yeah.
So if you are a player, and he would make it very clear to us, your job is to go play the game. Be the best that you can be when you're on the court. Cheer on your teammates when you're on the sideline. That's your job, is to play. I don't need you coaching. He would make it very clear that he made the decisions on what plays we're going to go run, offenses and defenses. I'm going to determine who's going to come on the team and who's going to come off. Recruiting, that was his job. His job was to coach. His job was to set strategy, set a game plan. Our job was to play. He says, I also don't need you as a player being a spectator. As a spectator, people pay money to come to our games and to cheer us on and to be entertained.
Yeah.
If you're watching when you're on the court, that's a problem.
Yeah. It's a big problem.
I don't need you watching.
Yeah.
I need you playing. Then he said, your job is also not to officiate. The officials have a job to do as best as they can. Now, what's interesting is that most of us cannot see 20/20. Guess what? Officials, same thing. They got vision problems too. But it's not our job. And my brother's a basketball official at the college level. So I got to be real careful. He's real sensitive about this. Shout out to you, G. Yeah, officials make mistakes, and they also get a lot of things right. The point, though, as a player, I can't be distracted by what's happening. That's noise out in the marketplace that I have no control over. All of those things that I just talked about are very relatable in a business career, in a professional career. We got to focus on our thing. What's our responsibility? If it's to coach and lead the team, do that. If it's to be a player on the team, do that. If it's to kind of be a spectator from the distance and, spend money on market reports, do that. But find your lane and then stick to that assignment. That's what I love about that lesson.
That's really interesting, though. From that perspective, how often are you evaluating that change of the position the role change, right? So maybe right now your time is to lead,
Yeah.
but are there times where maybe it is a player, and how are you navigating that just from even a career perspective?
I'll give you a couple ways I like to think about it. So depending on what I'm affiliated with, my role changes.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so in ministry at church, I'm primarily in a leadership role, but there's also times when I've been in a player role. Let's talk about the player role. I even break that up. So typically on any team, you have what I'll call a bench warmer. And again, I've experienced all
Yeah.
this. I think this stuff is
No
important.
judgment.
No
Yeah.
judgment.
Just
I've
titles.
experienced it. My
Yeah.
first shot hit the backboard so hard, I thought the glass was going to break. I'll never forget it. My knees were shaking when I went into the game. I was just kind of happy to be there, right? That was my first job, bench warmer. Second level is you can be a contributor, meaning you have a clear defined role. You're going to go help this team do something. If you're on a finance team, your job is to go pull the data. If you're on a marketing team, your job is to go get market assessment data.
Yeah.
If whatever. Then you can be a peer leader, right? That's a level above a contributor. You probably have some experience. Maybe you've done this IT thing. Maybe you've done this particular legal area. You've got some expertise.
Yeah.
Now you're a leader amongst your peers. And then you're the team leader, the coach, where you're making the shots. You're calling the shots.
Yeah.
You are deciding what we're going to go do and go execute. And for me, what I've tried to do, Aaron, is just recognize that on every team, I'm in a different phase. So I just joined a board recently. On this board, there's a lot of other people who've already been with the board for well over 5 years. It makes zero sense for me, in my opinion, to be coming into the board meeting, the first one, and like laying down the gauntlet. Hey,
Yeah.
listen to me. I've got all these great ideas about what, needs to be done.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
What I am is I'm a bench warmer, and then I will probably grow to be a contributor. And then from there, I'll grow to, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's levels to this thing.
Yeah.
And I just think we have to recognize that depending on the team you're on, you play different roles. So for me, growing up with sports my whole life, I've played all the roles.
Yeah.
I've been the distributor, I've been the rebounder, I've been the cheerleader on the bench, I've been the star, all of it. So being able to play these different roles is easy. But for a lot of people, if you've only been the star, you've only been the person that people cheer for, sometimes it's difficult for those people, I've found, to sort of put themselves in somebody else's shoes who is maybe just getting started.
Yeah.
And likewise, it's true. Sometimes a person who's the bench warmer has no appreciation for the pressure that comes from having to deliver every day when you're the top dog.
Yeah. Yeah.
So being in the different roles, I think it's helped with my perspective a lot.
I like that he laid it out for you too.
Yeah. Bonafide Leaders works with emerging leaders, established leaders, and executives. We exist to help you, your teams, and your business thrive, specializing in executive coaching, leadership development, organizational consulting, and keynote speaking services. Providing the absolute highest level of quality and service, we partner with our clients to help them grow, elevate their leadership effectiveness, navigate organizational change, culture, and leadership transitions, to advance employee engagement and retention, and raise bottom-line operations. If these are the kinds of problems you're seeking to solve and you're humble, hungry, and coachable, we might be a good fit. If that's you, reach out to me at bonafideleaders.com/contact.
All right. So now you had a great coach who helped you understand those roles. Now I'm curious that transition into your own coaching.
Yeah. My first time coaching I was probably a late teenager, like 19, 20 years old, sometime between my freshman year of college and sophomore year, or maybe high school, senior and freshman year. My old high school coach invited a few of us who were playing college ball to come back and be a counselor, camp counselor for a week or 2 weeks, whatever it was,
Okay.
at our old high school. So you're just helping the little kids, maybe ages 8 through 15, go to these different stations. Okay, here's a dribbling drill, here's a shooting drill. Give them awards at the end of the week, encourage them, that kind of thing. I had never done one of those. And actually, I really liked it. What I had done was I had been an official. So one of my jobs early on, I think I was probably 16, 17 years old, is that I was a basketball official for little girls' basketball games. So I was getting a little...
Herding cats.
Yeah, I was actually, in that role, I was not only official, but I was also a coach. My job was to help the girls. Hey, you can only dribble with one hand at a time, not, that kind of thing. So anyway, that was my first experience of coaching. But to your earlier question, the coach that opened the door for me was a guy from my church league who had been my coach and kind of a mentor. He was kind of responsible for youth sports, if you will, at our church. And he called me up after I graduated high school, and he's like, "Hey, I got this team. You remember I used to do this AAU basketball team and stuff?" I'm like, "Yeah, yeah." He's like, "Yeah, I want you to come be a part of it." I said, "Okay, that's a cool honor." I show up, and there's more boys than maybe we were expecting. So I went in there thinking I was going to be helping out, and now I'm the head coach
Oh, okay.
of my own team. Fast forward, I ended up doing that for 3 years.
Really?
3 years. And to this day, I credit that coach, Coach Keith, for really opening a door that I had never considered of coaching sports. The last year, we had about 10 core guys on that team. And keep in mind, we did tournaments all the
Yeah.
time. So between the spring all the way through July, we traveled all across the state of Texas. And then we had a national tournament in Las Vegas. So my job was to, hold things down. I had 2 assistant coaches, one of which is a current Division I head coach, by the
Wow, that's
way.
cool.
So anyway, on that team, we ended up having 6 of our 10 boys get college scholarships.
Wow.
Some went to junior college. Our best kid ended up going to Stanford, walked on for a year, and earned his way to an athletic scholarship. So, I mean, we had a very talented team. And let me be clear, just like John Wooden says, I cannot win. At least I haven't found a way. I cannot win without talent.
Yeah.
So we got to have some talent. And that coach helped me to see a lot of things. Let me just tell you about some of the responsibilities, and then we can talk more. These are some of my responsibilities. I went back and looked at my notes just to kind of keep myself honest. Recruiting. I had to bring on other people to the team. I had to tell them all about our wonderful program and how they could add value to it. Player evaluation and minutes. Who's going to play? How many minutes and when? Our lineups and all that kinds of stuff. Practice planning. Figuring out how we're going to use this hour and a half. What do we need to work on the most? Motivating action. As you know, depending on the day, some kids, particularly teenagers, are more or less motivated.
Really? That's shocking to me. Oh,
There's game planning
yeah.
and strategy. How are we going to go attack this team's weaknesses? Which means I got to go do something else. I got to go scout and figure out who are we playing? What are their tendencies? Parent interface.
Mm.
Yes, there's always a parent on every team I've ever been a part of. Actually, there's 2 kind of parents. There's the one parent who's just exceptionally noisy. They just need to talk. They just need to get, I don't know, feelings expressed. And so they're just noisy is what I like to call them. There's always at least one nosy or noisy
Yeah.
parent. And the second parent is the parent, there's at least one of these on every team, who is absolutely convinced that their son needs to be getting, or their daughter needs to be getting much more playing time than what they've been given. Despite the evidence that's in
I
front.
think that theory holds true. I guarantee you. There's always the one like, yes, my kid is like D1, but I don't know why they're playing here. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, of course, budgeting, scheduling. We had a $10,000 budget, figuring out what we could get the organization to pay and then what the parents would pay. What are our fundraising opportunities? Coming up with ideas for that.
So
Yeah.
you said you went in and there were more kids.
Yeah.
So did you have like 2 teams you split where he
No.
was coaching or?
Well, yeah, he went
Okay.
with he got the best group of
Okay.
guys, and then I got the next group.
Okay. So
Next or the next after that.
So
because
he
I
was
still new.
support. You were on your own. He had some support, but you were dealing with kind of a lot of this on your own.
Yes.
Too. Okay.
So he was the organizational leader, if you
Yeah.
will, but he also ran another team. So that was his primary responsibility. And then I was coaching my team. So that last year, we ended up winning 67% of our games.
Wow.
We traveled to Vegas, did really, really well. And like I said, all those kids got scholarships. And that was all the stuff that I was learning between the ages of 23 and 26. I'm an individual contributor at work.
I was going to say, plus you've got a full-time job and you're taking these kids. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm doing my individual contributor job at work. And little did I know that all these things I'm doing for this basketball team are actually helping me develop leadership skills. So my message to the listener, you've got a kid, you've got a nephew, you've got people in the community who need a coach, and you've got some level of expertise. You don't have to have been the world's greatest, but you just need to have a good attitude and a willing spirit.
Yeah.
And if you have at least a little bit of knowledge about it, there's a place for you. What I found is that there's almost no greater place to really develop what I'll call influence skills than that space being a either head coach or an assistant coach. I think both of those places are awesome. So for me, that was kind of my foray and really big intro
Yeah.
into coaching.
Did you ever want to do coaching full time? Like, did you ever have that kind of itch?
I did. What's funny is that I hadn't thought about that in a long time.
Mhm.
Before a lot of years, I did, Aaron. It's just like, I mean, you know it.
Yeah. Yeah.
The game, you love it,
Yeah.
and just being around it is something you want to do forever. So for a long time, I mean, I strongly considered playing professional basketball. I probably wasn't 25, maybe 25, 26 before I finally let it go.
Yeah.
Deion Sanders was doing this thing. It's going to be this local traveling basketball team. I stayed with that for a long time. I really considered, okay, maybe I could do this, go to Puerto Rico, and then maybe that could land me in Australia. Um, but, I had a full-time job
Yeah.
that had insurance.
Yeah. Exactly.
Some other stuff.
Those benefits. Yeah.
And as a coach, I used to think, I don't know when that left me, the desire to want to coach full time, but at some point it did. Maybe when I got my own kids, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I did definitely used to think about that.
So as you're moving into this and you have success, I think it would be so fun to like help kids and help them see potential and help them grow. What were some other coaching roles you had?
Yeah, besides that, I coached soccer. So I had a hiatus between the time I stopped coaching this basketball team and then I had my own kids. And so at this point, okay, now my kids are learning how to play soccer. So I had a great coach out in California who was so patient with the kids. That's the thing I learned. I try to learn something from everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And what he really taught and what he really role modeled was patience. I mean, between the ages of 3 and 6, this is the age that he was coaching, but yet he was so also fundamentally sound.
Yes.
And I'm realizing, wow, I knew nothing about soccer. But I wanted to learn as much as I could because of this man and his patience with these kids. He had such an incredible story. Recovering drug addict, was homeless, and gave his life basically to coaching youth sports for free.
Wow.
And he was outstanding. So I learned soccer from him. The last few years I've been doing track and field.
Oh.
My wife's technically like the head coach, or at least assistant to the head coach, but she had some conflicts a few times. So that means your boy go and, help assist on some events I know a little bit, something about, and some I really don't know as much about, like hurdles, but the jumps, I can help the kids out with that and how to transfer the baton. Flag football, not so much an official role, but just helping out from time to time when the coaches aren't there. I could throw the ball. I played quarterback, in middle school and stuff like that. And I can help with some of the base defenses, that kind of a thing. Those are just some of the sports that I got involved with, but nothing compares to that golden period between the ages of 23 and 26, where I'm literally leading a team and having 2 assistant coaches under me and delegating work and being responsible for the budget. And these kids' lives, I was driving them. I just think back on it. I'm driving these kids to Corpus Christi. Their parents are trusting me with hotels and all this kinds of stuff. It's a lot of responsibility when I look back on it. But back then, I just kind of took it in stride and thought, well, this is what's on the plate. I got help. I got assistant coaches, and this is a really awesome team to coach. And I love my head coach, so I just do it.
Well, look at it from this perspective, too. Like, you are developing these kids to take a massive step in their life. Like, it is going from playing to, I'm going to get you a scholar. And it's so relative to career development too. Like, I am setting you up for that next huge step in your life. Youth sports is like, there are people who could do youth sports, just have gifts. I remember coaching a basketball, like this, I think they were 6-year-olds. And I'm like, go check in. And he's like, what does check in mean? You know what I mean? And like, you're having that balance of how do I make this fun, but teach you. Like, you can see those coaches who have 5-year-olds just like doing layups and shooting free throws. And you're like, how in the world? It's just such a different skill. But you were at this level where you were literally giving them what it takes to take those next steps, which I can see really correlating to any sort of leadership role in a corporate job.
For sure. And then most recently, this last basketball team, we just finished our season. And this has been one of my most enjoyable teams as well. This team went undefeated in non-conference play, went undefeated in the league play. And then we had 3 playoff games potentially. We got a bye because we had gone undefeated, and then we had 2 games, won those 2. And so, being able to share that with my son, who was one of the 7th graders on this 8th grade team, we had 3 7th graders. So the whole team, they just welcomed us with open arms. The head coach, even though I was not the head coach, I'm the assistant coach, but he really gave me and the other assistant so much voice.
Yeah.
To make calls and make inputs. And his expertise is football, but he had a boy on the team, our rebounder, and he gave me and the other coach leeway. And again, in life, when you're running the team and maybe you got expertise in one area, but there's another area where somebody else has more than you, it's not a slap to your face, and it's not saying that you don't have what it takes to be the head coach. I think actually the more confidence people have in their own ability, they're able to give and empower that to other people.
Yeah.
And so that coaching experience was awesome, won a championship. It was just great.
Yeah. How about any memorable stories from coaching? I can imagine traveling around Texas with a bunch of teenagers. So there's a story or two there.
For sure. We had so much fun. Had such a good time. I'll talk about a situation with a player on the team named Special K. Call him Special K. Sorry, I get too good just thinking about this. Okay, so this particular player he represents full confidence. He exudes confidence. I don't remember what the style was back then. Carl Kanai, colors, Jabot, Tommy Hilfiger. I don't remember what the popular, whatever it was, he was repping it. And he was wearing it. I mean, he always came into the gym looking fresh. And if you talk to him, he kind of looked like, he just really looked like he was very confident. So now that it's time to, do player evaluations, I'm expecting the same thing on the court. Nah, he left all that in his wardrobe.
Clothes. Yeah.
The game didn't match.
Yeah.
And I have a hard time. Let me be honest. I'm gonna be real honest because some of the people who've played with me, they know. I just call it like it is, and I'm letting the guy know it ain't there, bro. But I didn't say it like that. Yeah. But I'm trying to let him see that you're probably not gonna be on my team. Long story short, there's a relationship that this young man and his family have with some people at our church. Long story short, he's also one of the people who can actually pay. Remember, I told you we had this $10,000 budget. Some can fundraise, some can pay on their own. Somehow the organization can do it. This is one of those guys who could pay.
Okay.
So an exception was made. He was on our team.
Okay.
In hindsight, poor decision. And the same is true in business. If you ever put someone on your team who you look at the talent level and you look at what's required for your team to be successful, to get a win, and you have someone on the team, but they got a good relationship with such and such, and they were my buddy from high school. Eventually, it's going to catch up to you. That's my opinion. So, as a rule of thumb, maybe from this experience, I never put anybody on my team ever.
Yeah.
Let me say it one more time. EVER.
No matter family, whatever.
Hey.
Yeah.
Call me you don't like me, whatever you want to say. Yeah. But what I will not do is hurt our team and hurt you. Because let me tell you what ended up happening to Special K. So we go through the regular season, our tournaments and stuff. He plays occasionally, not with any type of consistency, but occasionally and typically when it's a blowout, which is the proper thing to do, given that these other kids, as you see, 6 of them got college scholarships.
Yeah.
Special K is nowhere near a college scholarship for basketball. So I would be doing all of these players a disservice, giving this guy all those minutes.
Good playing time, yeah.
So now we get to Las Vegas. Now, I don't know what happened, but I went to the restroom, went to another court. By the way, literally, LeBron James is in the building. That's the level of talent. J.R. Smith, who played for the Cavaliers, he's in the building. This is the level of tournament. LaMarcus Aldridge, he's in the building, who played for the Spurs at the end of his career, Portland Trailblazers. That's the level that we're dealing with for the Las Vegas National Tournament.
Wow.
I go to the bathroom, another court, something happens. I come back and I just hear shouting. And it's our top coach, remember the coach I told you about earlier, laying in to Special K. because Special K is apparently, and he was frustrated the whole year that he wasn't playing, thought he should have been playing. The good news is that, believe it or not, his parents were reasonable people.
I was going to say, I thought for sure Special K's parents were the ones we were talking about previously that think their kid. That
what
shocks
was
me.
awesome
Okay.
is that Special K's family was cool. Special K was the problem. He really thought he should have been playing because he exuded confidence. I don't know where the confidence came from, because confidence typically is built on self-efficacy.
Yeah.
The belief that you can do something well, which typically shows up in you actually doing that thing well, right? But anyway, the head coach, the top coach, is laying into him. And I just hear something like, you don't even deserve to be here. You ought to be thankful you're here. I ought to take that jersey off your back. I mean, just laying into him and tears, This is tough love. So sometimes, and Dale talked about it on the last podcast, sometimes as leaders, we got to give it to people straight and dump them with the facts when they're jaded about reality. And Special K was jaded about reality. He had no business being in the same gym with LeBron James, J.R. Smith, LaMarcus Aldridge, these NBA players, and these guys on my team who are trying to get themselves college scholarships. I'm literally sitting around Bobby Knight. Coach K was in the building. Roy Williams, at the time, I think he was at Kansas. He's in the big tournament.
Yeah.
And he's griping about the fact that he's not playing. So my lesson and conclusion is, when you've got talent that is far below what's needed or the rest of your talent base, be very, very careful about putting that on your team.
Yeah.
You might come to regret it, and the person's probably going to come to regret it when it's all said and done. Even though he could pay the money, we probably could have found a way around it. But hopefully the young man learned greatly from that experience. I'm sure he's in his 30s by now, and I believe and hope that he is thriving. Even if he happens to hear this. I hope that was a great lesson that he learned in the process and has moved on from it positively.
It's a good lesson, though. I get stuck in I like you. You know what I mean?
I don't.
Yeah.
Aaron, I do not.
Yeah, that's good. That's really good. Okay, so you've had a lot of coaching experience, different levels, different ages, all of those things. Moving into yourself as an executive coach.
Yeah.
What have you brought with you to the next level and coaching in a totally, there's so much similar, yet so different, right?
Yeah. Let me talk about, maybe describe what coaching is, because there's some people who don't know. If you're like me, I didn't really know. I mean, I kind of had an idea, been to a bunch of workshops where they say, hey, as a leader, this is a coaching leadership style, but I don't know that I really ever got that clearly until I went to school. So I go to the University of Texas at Dallas, get my graduate certificate in executive and professional coaching. And that's where I really learned what real coaching is. And so let me define that. Coaching is defined by the International Coaching Federation. That's the organization by which I'm credentialed as a coach. They define it as really a thought-provoking process, a creative process that is designed to build the maximum level of personal and professional growth in the coachee. Okay. And it's an exploratory process, and it's a neutral third-party process. There can be situations where you're really good friends with someone and you can coach them. There can be situations where you do the exact same job as the other person and coach them. And there are many, many other times when that's not the case. Mm-hmm. And so a coach is a neutral third party designed, again, to really call out what they see and to help a person effectively grow to the next level of whatever growth it is that they're seeking to go get. So that's what I do as an executive coach. So there's a lot in coaching in terms of sports coaching. So maybe let's define it that way so that the listener doesn't get confused. We're talking about sports coaching versus executive coaching or professional coaching, which is what I now do. There's probably about 7 different things that I got from it. I'll start with the first one. The first that I think is transferable is communication. As a sports coach, I'm talking to parents, to players, to my other coaches, officials, and it's constant. It's ongoing, continuous. And my ability to effectively communicate, let's say I'm talking to an official and I disagreed with the call on the other end. I could charge him up, stomp my feet, and get his technical, which unfortunately I have done one time. Only one technical that I can remember in my life, but I did do that. Or I can say during a timeout or during a free throw shot, hey, Mr. Official, could you watch the elbows from number 12 on the inside? And most of the time when I do that, the referee acknowledges, okay, yeah, I'll look for that. Next thing you know, I might get that call later in the game.
Yeah.
Communication. With my players, I would sometimes have to stomp my feet and yell, scream to get their attention. They're teenagers.
Yeah.
They don't listen so well sometimes. That would be completely inappropriate in an executive
Yeah.
coaching scenario. I don't do that. So I just try to listen. I try to meet people where they are. I just got a new client here last week, and we're in very different places. And what I expressed to that new client is that, look, your background is your background. My background is my background, not changeable. But what is changeable is deciding what it is that you want to do with your future and where you're trying to go. And that's what I can help you with.
Yeah.
I had to make that point very clear. So, as a coach today, I engage with, if I'm doing a sponsored agreement, let's say I'm working with a corporation, I'm working with the sponsor themselves. I'm talking with HR. I'm talking with procurement. I'm talking with their legal department, and of course, the employee. There's a lot of different people that I'm interfacing with in order to, one, win the engagement, two, to sustain the engagement all the way through. I'm talking to a lot of those people, and then to hopefully earn new business the next time. So communication, without question, is a very clear and transferable skill.
I love it. What else from
Yeah, what else? Recruiting. So part of what I do as a basketball coach is I sell my program. I had a whole roster, and I just went through this week to just look at all the people I would reach out to. It's crazy. I mean, a lot of these guys ended up playing big time college basketball.
So when you were coaching AAU, you were doing this?
Yes.
Wow.
I was reaching out
Serious.
because I would look at who was first team all district, second team all district across the DFW area. And I'd ask, hey, who on our team knows that person?
Yeah.
And then hopefully that's the best way, right? Is a warm referral.
Yeah.
Guess what I do as a coach? I'm trying to, get business. And the best way to get business a lot of times is through a warm referral. It's very similar. What I'm doing with the players, I'm saying, look, you're playing on my team. You want our team to be better, right? Yes. Okay. What I need your help with is, if you know any of these people, could you just reach out to them and encourage them to come to the gym? Let them know I'm going to spend the time talking to them about our program, what we can offer them, what we intend to do, how we play, what's our style, etc. I do the same thing as a coach. I recruit and tell people what I provide, my services, my style, and all that kinds of stuff, and give them the opportunity to either say yes or no. I also do business development and promotion and advertising and all that kind of stuff, because guess what? You could be having the best basketball program in the world, best soccer program in the world, best swimming program in the world, technical coaching, everything is tight. But if no one knows about what you're doing, it literally doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And so, there's an element to this business promoting it as well. So that's one of the skills.
How do you find so obviously all district, all those things, you're finding your top players that you want to coach in sports. What's your strategy? Like, how are you finding your top players that you really want to coach in business now?
It's different.
Yeah.
So what I like to call is the ideal client.
Yeah.
And I put stuff out there, like even on the commercials that people listen to on this podcast. You get an idea. So a lot of times I tell people, and it's on the website, I think I talk about being humble, being hungry. So that combination, and then being smart. That means not IQ smart, but that means being at least a little bit self-aware and not a narcissist. I don't want to coach those people.
Yeah.
And so I'm letting people know in advance a type of person who's going to be a good fit for me and who I think I'm going to be able to help them grow to where they're trying to grow to. I talk about the fact that I'm coaching leaders and executives all the time because that's my target. That's the level that I've been at for the large majority of my career. It's a level I feel really comfortable talking to those people. I know the struggles that they're facing, that they're working through. And I would say the same thing when I was recruiting in sports. I would say, look, I've played college basketball. I've gone through the recruiting process. I know what you're up against. I know the pressures. I know the academics plus the athletics and trying to figure out which sport, how many sports, and if this sport, which team. All that stuff I've been through. So I used a very similar methodology, but I would just say here for Bonafide Leaders, the market size is so much bigger than just, I don't know, the top 50 or 100 players.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that part is different.
Yeah.
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 But similar.
More fun. Okay. What other traits?
I'd say giving feedback.
Yeah,
so giving
that's
feedback.
A big one.
Yeah. As a coach, again, I'm constantly giving feedback, and primarily to the players, but also to the coaches. I just thought about something just now. I'll talk about that one next. Yeah. So as a sports coach, I am the final authority. Make no mistake. There needs to be no confusion on that. You either will accept that and be a part of the team, or you will reject that. But we will not go back and forth.
Yeah.
I established that very clear. Whether I'm on a mission trip in the Dominican Republic and I coach out there, right,
Yeah.
in the summers, or if I'm coaching like this most recent team, hey, make no mistake where the final authority rests. What's different as an executive coach is that the final authority rests squarely with the coachee, the client who I'm coaching. My job is simply to call out what I see. I'm giving feedback because I'm holding up a mirror.
Yeah.
I'm reflecting back what I'm seeing in tone, body language, facial expression, patterns, and then I lay it in their lap. Now you client, you coachee, you do with it what you
Yeah.
choose, but you are in control. That is what's different, sports coaching to executive coaching. But what is similar is that when I'm giving feedback, Aaron, I'm attempting to facilitate growth.
Yeah.
That's the goal. And that's the part that I think people who haven't played sports sometimes, they struggle with.
Yeah.
Because they haven't had somebody sort of critique them. No, go a little to the left, go a little bit higher. No, go a little faster. That's normal for us.
Yeah.
I've been getting critiqued my whole life to perform better. And I understand that it's a means to an end. But I think some people can take feedback really personally, and it's their identity is all wrapped up in the feedback. With my executive coachees and as a sports coach, I'm always trying to help them understand the why as to what I'm giving and what we're trying to do together, which ultimately is help you achieve your goals. You want to be a better basketball player. You want to be a better leader. You want to be able to have greater followership. You want to be able to have more influence. You want to be able to take your company from 2% market share to 5% market, whatever the goal is. If I'm calling something out, I'm only doing it for that reason to help you get better.
You know what's big on that one too, and I just want to call out for your sake of, as a leader, as a coach, you've got to be uncomfortable, or you have to be comfortable having those uncomfortable conversations. Yes. You're pushing someone. Yes. And sitting down with a player, it had to teach you so much about, for me to get the most out of this player and see the potential, it's not like you're doing great, right? And that's easy. Oh, look at you. You're doing great. Everything. You've got to be comfortable with those uncomfortable. And I can see it leading up to having those conversations with your team from an executive perspective, or the people you're coaching. Like, let's be honest a little bit here. That's what helps them. And they may not like it. Yeah. That is uncomfortable for you. Yes. Because they might get squirmy. They might get mad at you. But it's such an important trait. And the more you can embrace that, that's how you get the best out of people, right? It
is. And I think back to when I was a first-time supervisor. I was a lot more robotic with my feedback in that, I'd read a book and I'd kind of just do what the book kind of told me. It was a great book, by the way, called First Break All the Rules. The CFO at the company actually recommended that book to me. It's called First Break All the Rules. It is a great book.
Who wrote that book?
I forgot. Okay. It's a great book for first-time supervisors, managers, you're leading people. Yeah. I would just kind of follow the script, if you will, right? I look at all the Gallup poll surveys, like, really? 30,000 managers are doing that, and that's excellent? Oh, okay, I'll do that. As I got more experience, I realized that there's some nuance to it. These are human beings. Yeah. They're not a robot. They're not a machine. And so I think being able to tailor the feedback to that individual while still being true to what it is really, really important. But again, that's me leading people on my team or leading projects. As an executive coach, it is not my job to critique or to judge. That ain't it. I'm not being an executive coach. Now, what I can do from time to time for my clients is they'll say, hey, can you tell me what's wrong here? And I will say, okay, here's what I would do for one moment and one moment only. Watch me. I'm taking off my coaching hat and I'm putting on my consulting hat. And I'll tell them, this is what I see. And then I take the cap back off and I say, what do you think about it? Go back. Because at the end of the day, it's still what they want to do about it. The ball is in their court. Yeah.
All right. What other lessons?
Oh, man, conflict resolution and negotiation. That's an ongoing, continuous as well. Every day you and I are negotiating prices, negotiating terms, negotiating deals, structures, all this kind of stuff. And you know what? When it comes to conflict, that's an ongoing thing. You and I were talking about something before we went on air today. Yeah. And that's just the reality of a business. Stuff happens, not because people want bad stuff to happen, but when it does, what are you going to do about it?
Right.
And how you respond in that moment is really, really critical. So there were frequently teammates who didn't get along. Frequently. There were frequently parents who thought that their child should play more. And what I had to do as parent interface was get in the middle of that thing and talk about, okay, let me hear you.
Yeah.
Very important first step when it comes to conflict resolution. This is the same in marriage. This is the same in every relationship. I got to let the other person know I'm hearing them.
Yeah.
I got to validate their experience because that's their perspective. And from their perspective, it's 100% the truth. And then hopefully, if they're willing, after I've done that, they'll be willing to listen to my perspective. So the parent who says their guy ought to be playing more, let me tell you what I'm seeing. Let's talk about numbers, because I'm all about data and what it's telling us. The camera, the data is not lying to us. They've played 6 quarters, and they've scored no points, 12 fouls, and 1 rebound over the course of those 6 quarters. Mind you, I'm looking at the same player who plays their position, who's played 5 less minutes than your player, and they've managed to get 20 points, 5 turnovers, et cetera, et cetera. I just lead with the facts. And if the facts aren't available, then it's very important, I think, in conflict and resolution, I got to start with, well, here's what I see.
Right.
You tell me what you see. Because sometimes I don't have all the facts either. Sometimes they don't have all the facts. But the thing about conflict resolution is that the emotions start getting high when both people are operating with sort of the unknown. When you have the facts, that's strength. And the other person can be, unreasonable and ignore the facts. Or if they're a reasonable person, I think they'll hear you out, so long as it's done respectfully.
Yeah.
So again, very, very common thing in business, conflict resolution, negotiation.
And that runs into the next one too very well, which
Yeah.
yeah.
Adaptability.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I love this this quote. It's attributed to Mike Tyson. I don't know if he actually said it. You know what I'm getting ready to say?
I don't know this one, no. Maybe I do.
Everyone has a plan until they get punched in the mouth.
Oh, yes. Yes. Yeah.
Or punched in the face, whatever the coach says. We all got a plan. We all got a game plan. If we are worth our salt, we ought to have a game plan when we show up to the game. And at the same time, in every game I've ever been a part of, every single one, which is hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of games I've either played in, refereed, coached, something happens that was not a part of the plan.
Yeah.
What do you do? Well, here's what the less than average people do. They just stick to the game plan.
Yeah.
They just say, well, this is what I practiced for, and I just got to stick to it. Those who are more skilled recognize it's time to make an adjustment.
Yeah.
And as an executive coach, that is literally what I have to do for every single coaching call. So I work with people over a course of 6 months or 9 months, sometimes as short as 3 months, and they've got a coaching plan, a coaching goal, or development plan. And what they tell me they really want to focus on is, hey, I really want to develop my relationship with my peers. No problem. So we start working on that. We go to meeting number 2, and I say, hey, what would you like to focus on today? I'm just really frustrated that my boss doesn't honor my time. Okay.
All right. Yeah. Plan B.
And of course, I'm not doing that. I'm not like, oh, deer in the headlights. No, because I'm actually expecting change. I'm actually expecting things not to go according to a script. Why? Because I don't have a script.
Right.
I literally show up and I hold a container. They bring the agenda. I hold a framework and a container to ensure that we're making progress towards whatever it is they want to progress to.
Yeah.
Back to them having ownership, though. It's their ball. They decide what they want to do. At the end of the day, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, hey, we have been focused on peer relationships, but I've noticed you brought a topic today, and I'm not sure I understand how it fits with peer relationships as it relates to your boss and time management. Can you expand on that? Is there a connection? What's the connection? Again, balls in their court. What have I done? I've just given feedback, but I've also given them an opportunity to decide, okay, they're right. Is this a right now moment I'm stressed, or is this something I want to bring into the entire coaching program? So being adaptable, my job, whether it's through and I've had lots of tears. There's tears of joy. There's tears of sadness. When I'm in the coaching room, people are vulnerable, and I respect that and honor that space. Yeah. And my job is just to flow with the moment. And that is actually one of the fun things about the coaching process, as you just don't know. how it's going to go.
Yeah.
And the same is true in sports. I don't know how the game's going to go. I don't know who's going to get injured. I don't know if the other team's going to go on this crazy run, if they're going to bring new players I've never seen.
Yeah, you prep and they throw in some new ones.
Oh my God, they're playing zone defense. I haven't seen any zone defense ever. They only play man-to-man defense. Okay, what am I going to do? So yeah, very transferable skill.
Yeah, I think it's so important. I think adaptability just in life is one of those key, not even coaching, but just in life is so huge.
You got to roll with it. And something, again, I didn't think about too, Aaron, was that you think about my college experience. 5 years, I have transcripts from 6 undergraduate institutions, 157 hours taken for a 120-hour degree, 50 teammates, 15 suite mates and roommates. None of them I picked. All these different schools, small school, big school, East Coast, you name it. I was forced to be a chameleon. And now I look up today and it's no wonder why that's comfortable for me. It's not stressful going into a unique or unknown situation. I can remain calm because my life forced me to do that.
Yeah.
And so, I think what you said is right on. It's a life skill for all of us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. What other ones?
So running meetings. Yeah. In my time in corporate, I don't know how many meetings I ran. I can tell you I've sat in double that, the number I've sat in, but I don't know, probably ran 500 plus meetings. And I'm not exaggerating. I could probably literally think of at least 500 plus meetings I run over even a 10-year span. All right. So I really value people's time, And because I value my time and I try to respect people's energy and their time. So when it comes to meetings, I've had lots of player, coach, parent meetings. And there's a framework that I like to use, and I keep it very, very short. If we're meeting more than 30 minutes, it's only because they've got questions, because I'm only going to talk for about 15, maybe 20. And it's simple. These are the expectations. This is who I am. This is what you can expect from the team, that what we're going to bring. This is how you earn playing time. Notice the key word, earn playing time. It's not given. And this is how to communicate. If you need to reach out to me, this is when to do it, not 5 minutes after a basketball game.
Yeah.
Things are pretty heated.
Yeah, exactly.
24-hour rule. Yeah. Come on now. You know how we do with that. So when it comes to running meetings now, as a coach, I set the framework. I facilitate. I set up the whole meeting cadence every other week for about 45 minutes to an hour, or every 3 weeks, or whatever that's going to be. I schedule it, set it up. We're going to meet virtually. We're going to meet in person, whatever. And then again, they bring the agenda. And then I figure out, okay, what do we need to accomplish in that period of time in order to get their agenda accomplished? And then I'm asking them, I'm checking in. How are we doing relative to what it is that you brought and that you want to get before we leave here? Yeah. Then at the end, again, trying to facilitate growth. Okay, what have you gotten from today? What are you taking away? What's stuck? What are you going to do with what you just got from today? How are you going to do it? In what way is it going to keep yourself accountable? Is there someone you need to leverage, right? We're going through all this stuff at the end to ensure that they're actually getting something meaningful from the process, as opposed to just showing up like a lot of meetings, wasted time. There's a great book by Patrick Lencioni called Death by Meeting. Oh my. Seriously, people are dying in meetings all across this world because people don't tend to set good agendas. They invite the wrong people or too many people. I mean, I do a whole series on this in a lecture series I do when it comes to the healthy leader and the rhythms that we have. And yeah, we got to do a lot better with our meetings. But I got a lot of that experience coaching youth sports. Yeah,
I could tell you a crazy corporate story where we worked with this company that just would have meetings and PowerPoints, and then nothing would get done. I'm like, oh my gosh. But here's what I want to say about your learning as a coaching from a coach perspective.
Yeah.
I think it's so commendable that you had a framework that young and understood the importance of the framework to go into those meetings, because frameworks and understanding that didn't come for me from a long time. And the fact that you really understood that, and that set such a great fundamental platform for you, foundation.
I'm blessed. And I didn't even know I was getting it.
Yeah.
That's what's crazy,
That
Aaron,
is awesome.
is that there's some blessings that come and you can see them a mile away.
Yeah.
And there's others, you don't see them until they pass you by like 25 miles.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, that was something useful.
Yeah.
And this is one of those for me.
Yeah.
The last one I would say is reflection and analysis. Reflection and analysis. This is a skill that as a coach, a sports coach, after every game, even after every quarter, after every half, we would evaluate me, the coaches, and then we would talk with the players.
Mhm.
What's working?
Yeah.
What's not working? Okay, we're having a hard time getting the ball inside. Let's think about how we can work it around the wings to make sure we get the ball inside. Maybe let's do some pick and roll action. Sorry if I'm using technical terms for those who are not doing basketball, but
Yeah.
the point is what's working, what's not working, and then we make adjustments. The ICF, International Coaching Federation, coaching mindset, it
Mhm.
actually requires us to have what's called a reflective practice. So if we're doing what we ought to be doing according to our core competencies, we're taking a minute, not just a minute, but taking time after each coaching session
Yeah.
to digest our notes, digest our thoughts. What patterns am I seeing here? What are the observations that I've been noticing? What are some of the key words? What are some of the key people that continuously surface? What's the language that this person's using that maybe I didn't really get in the session, but oh, now I'm tying it together. So even though I was mid-20s, I was learning analytical skills and how to be able to take this play and this player and this lineup and apply it to the next game so that we can have more success. Same thing I do as an executive coach. There's limited evaluation you can do in the moment.
Yeah.
Stuff's happening too fast, whether it's sports or whether it's executive coaching. There's some adjustments, but it's limited.
Yeah.
So you need that time
Yeah.
when, there's not the pressure and the stress of somebody in front of you. Just take time, look over my notes, think through what their coaching goals are, remind myself of those, where they're coming from, how much time do we have left? Okay, are we on track, off track? So yeah, it's that reflection and analysis. Those 7 items that we just went through from a sports coaching perspective, I think for me have been really helpful as an executive coach running a business that focuses on helping leaders and executives grow.
I love it. I think very, very key. And it's always great how it comes around. So to close this, any parting thoughts you want to leave with the listener?
I think I just reiterate what I said earlier. If you don't love sports, you don't, maybe you were picked on when you were younger because you weren't as good. Guess what? Me too.
Yeah.
If you weren't picked first and you got discouraged because, you were the last person picked, guess what? Me too. Um, find something in life to go win at. And I think sports is a great teacher. And there's so many sports. Go look at the Olympics. I mean, there's badminton, there's pickleballs coming up, there's tennis. That's if you want to use your hands and eyes, right? Okay, well, then you want to use your feet. Well, how about a little bit of soccer or
Yeah.
maybe rugby? Okay, maybe I want to do something different. Maybe I'm really good with my visuals. So how about sharpshooting? There's tons of sports out there, golf, that people can go learn, pick up, coach, go volunteer. There is a need,
Yeah.
particularly in the world of youth sports that we're in, where for a lot of people, it's all about dollars, 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 dollars. Real quick, wanted to go to my nephew's basketball game, which was near my house. Rarely do they have games near my house. Found out the admission fee for me, just to go sit in the stands for an hour to go watch a 6th or 7th grade play the game of basketball for an hour would be $30 or $35.
Yeah.
What? Folks, we're losing our minds. And the people, there's a lot of talk right now about boycotting this and boycotting that. That would be an area. Matter of
Yeah.
fact, I have already made that choice. Like, it's just outrageous. So
Yeah.
my point is that for people who care about the development of young people, who have just a little bit of knowledge about the sport, who have a little bit of time that they can go give and have a great attitude, help out a kid, we really, really have a huge need all over communities, across the Metroplex for sure. And I would say go do it. You're going to learn a ton of leadership skills that are going to be directly applicable. If it's anything like my experience, it's going to be directly applicable to your business and to your leadership. So go for it.
Yeah. And you don't have to know the sport. I mean, one of the most famous wasn't the Williams sisters? Like their dad really he didn't come from
Richard.
tennis, right? Yeah.
Great
like,
movie, by the way.
Great movie. But he
Yeah.
wasn't he just studied tennis
Exactly.
and learned it. So you don't even have to know the sport to be able to coach.
Exactly. And he coached them until they were, I think, early teenage years.
Yeah.
Right. And
Yeah.
obviously did, I think, a pretty phenomenal job.
Yeah, I think you did all right. All right. All
Yeah.
right. Well, thank you again. A great great conversation about just that development. And I love your stories too.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Appreciate it, Aaron.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for listening. If you got value from this podcast, don't keep it a secret. Subscribe, leave a rating or review, and share it with someone you know. Until next time, remember, our world is starving for Bonafide leaders. Take your leadership to the next level by applying at least one thing you heard today.